Hello and welcome to my Week 2, Day 2 coverage of the LPL. I cover all four major regions in this format, going over the key moments, saving you time. In the instance of these two games, it would save you about an hour and a half to watch my video. That'll probably be 15 minutes long, 20 minutes long in total, between even two series. If you just wanted to know what the LGD, JDG series turned out to be, it would only take you, under 10 minutes. So, JDG come out. Both teams obviously disappointing so far. 0-2 on the season. Didn't expect to be that way. JDG swaps out bot laners. They go with Hope instead of LPC. Turns out working out for them. Hope was my MVP. So JDG start by taking a Chemtech Drake in the first game. They emphasized Drakes. Would end up getting to a Soul before it was all said and done. LGD would get a 2v2 kill in bot early game. Shadow would steal the Rift Herald, so LGD get off to a good start. JDG, however, just continued to emphasize taking Drakes. They would then take the Infernal and go 3-0 for the second Rift Herald. They ensured that they got the second one. There was a double kill in there. At 17 minutes, JDG would go to Soul Point by getting a pick play. All it needed was one kill to be able to get there. Hope had the double kill at 15 minutes, by the way. 20 minutes, JDG were up 5-2. Hope was 3-0-2, but the game was still tied in gold. However, those Drakes were all that really mattered. That was the advantage. LGD would ensure that the Soul was put off by 5 minutes by stealing a Drake at 22 minutes. However, JDG would respond by getting a 2-0 teamfight win afterwards. So at 25 minutes, it was 6-5. Hope was 3. It was actually 8-5. Hope was 3-0-5, and they had a 2K gold lead. So Hope had 100% kill participation through the first 25 minutes. He was really motoring on the Jinx. He looked good. They ended up giving him the Jinx in game 2 as well, which was a mistake. Clear draft mistake, in my opinion. 27 minutes, LGD would take another Drake. JDG would take the Drake and go 2-2 afterwards. Kanavi had a double kill. Kanavi would then have another double kill in the next fight where they would take Baron. So in a matter of minutes, JDG started really getting rolling by winning these team fights to be able to get the objectives. 30 minutes, they were up 14-7, and Yagao was 6-1-5, and they had a 4K gold lead. This was just really evident of how each moment of the game there was a different person carrying. Like at first it was Hope. Then it became Kanavi getting a couple double kills. But all throughout the game, Yagao is doing work on Victor, getting kills, getting assists, making things happen. At 33 minutes, JDG would finally get the Cloud Soul after getting a pickoff play. At 35 minutes, things got a little silly, I think. JDG probably could have tried to go for end, or at least taken an inhibitor. And instead, after winning 3-0 in mid and Kanavi getting a double kill, they started screwing around, which almost ended up losing them the game because at 37 minutes, Shadow would steal the Baron. Luckily for them, it was useless. Otherwise, I mean, the game could have went back on its head. At 39 minutes, JDG would get a pick play to take Elder, and that was it. They would win the game on that, pushing down mid. Hope would have a double kill. 25-8, the score indicates a blowout, and it was. And it probably would have been a bigger blowout if they hadn't screwed around at 35 minutes. A team that's 0-2 shouldn't be doing that. They should be trying to get wins and ensuring that they get wins. Game 2 was a lot closer, as you can see by the score. LGD would decide to swap out top laners. So both teams are at a point now where they know they need to make changes. LGD would start out strong, making a play in mid. It ended up going in their favor, 2-1. JDG would respond by getting a kill in bot lane in the 3v3. Both junglers showed up. JDG would then turn that into a Chemtech Drake. And this was very similar to the other game. JDG and Kanavi were ensuring they were getting Drakes, and that was getting them wins. By 8 minutes, LGD would go top lane. But by doing that and getting a gank, they had to reset, and JDG said, fine, we're going to take the objective. They took the Rift, which then a few minutes later turned into some gold advantage. At 11 minutes, LGD would take the Ocean after a 1-1 fight in top lane and a reset. So at 15 minutes, LGD were up 4-3, 2K gold, and Shadow was 2-0-2. So throughout this, Shadow was going around the rift. Like I said, in the early game, he influenced the mid lane quite largely. And then at 8 minutes, he went top lane to get Garvey ahead. And Garvey was the person that held most of this gold lead throughout the game. JDG would go to Soul Point before 25 minutes. By 20 minutes, it was 6-6, and Hope was 4-0-1 because the teams began to jostle for position in the bot lane, and especially around these drakes and objectives. LGD allowed JDG back into the game this way, just here or there. They were getting 1 kill here, 1 kill there, and by it all going on Hope, the ADC, it just got pretty crazy for LGD. It got out of hand. At 26 minutes, they were still up 3.5k gold, however, but like I said, it was all on Garvey, who's playing Corky in top. And it would have been nice if he had shown up, but he just didn't show up. Like, he didn't make plays with his gold advantage. And in the end, that's why they lost. I think that they didn't do enough. At 30 minutes, LGD would take the Baron. However, they would sneak the Baron because they had all this advantage and were able to push JDG back. However, JDG caught on that they were taking the Baron, and when they were all weak trying to reset after taking Baron, JDG were there and took a 3-0 teamfight win, which turned directly into the Infernal Soul because the Infernal Soul was up. So now JDG has the Infernal Soul at 30 minutes, and they're up 11-7 in kills. Hope is 6-0-3, but LGD still has a slight gold lead, because the issue then becomes LGD doesn't have anybody out on the Rift with the Baron buff, so they couldn't really take advantage of it. They would 50-50 Baron at 34 minutes. JDG would come out with it, but LGD won the team fight 3-2 afterwards, which then turned into an Elder, just like the situation before, but opposite. However, JDG would then step back, not allow themselves to lose the game. And at 40 minutes, they would win a team fight 5-3 in mid and end the game. Eric had a triple kill for LGD in that fight, but it wasn't enough. Hope was the MVP because, I mean, in both games he showed up. Kanavi showed up in this one, but there were moments where in both games Kanavi failed. I mean, he lost the Rift Herald at 8 minutes. He lost a Baron in this game. He lost a Drake, and I think he lost a Drake in this game as well. I mean, he didn't lose a Drake in this game. He lost the Baron. The first one, he allowed it to be snuck. So, I mean, honestly, like, Kanavi had moments where he looked good and moments where he didn't look good. However, I believe Hope looked good in most instances in this series. So now JDG gets back on the winning side of things. At 9th in my power rankings, I mean, I believe that they are a borderline playoff team right now. Obviously, on paper, they are better than that, but they aren't performing in that way. And even in this series, they didn't perform in that way. LGD weren't emphasizing Drakes and allowed themselves to get in a hole that they couldn't come out of that way. Series 2 was between Ultra Prime and EDG. On paper, this should be a blowout, but Ultra Prime has looked good in most of their series so far. That's why I actually had them 13th, because in the early games of their series, they have been competitive. Excuse me, no matter who they are against. And in this series, they took a game off of EDG and were actually ahead in Game 3 in the early game and mid-game and could have won this series against the world champions. Game 1, however, was a blowout, if you can see, 20-6. So Ultra Prime actually came out ahead in the first game despite getting blown out 20-6 because they had a level 1 kill and then turned that into a Mountain Drake. However, EDG would respond by taking a Rift Herald and then taking the next objective, which was a Cloud. They had won the fight 4-2 after taking the Cloud, in which case JJ had a double kill, and that's where things started really going for EDG. By 15 minutes, Scout was 3-0-3 on Rise with 100% kill participation, 2k gold lead. EDG would then decide to send all 5 men bot lane to get Viper ahead. Viper would have a double kill, which then turned into an Ocean, which it just snowballed from there. There isn't a lot listed here because it just snowballed. 20 minutes, it's 9-3. Viper's 4-0-4. Gold leads 5k. Then they go to Soul Point. They take the Baron at 23 minutes. Excuse me. They would ace 5-1 in the process of taking that Baron. Flandry had a quadra kill on Graves before that. Flandry showed off his champion pool in this series by playing 3 very different champions. By 30 minutes, well, not before 30 minutes, they had time to go to 10K gold lead, and EDG also would take the Ocean Soul. They ended 4-0. JJ had a double kill in the final fight. It was a blowout, 20-6, like I said. JJ ends up being my MVP. In both games, he showed up. He really was. Scout was probably more important to their win in Game 1. He had a crazy game on Rise, but he didn't show up really in Game 3. And Game 3 was the deciding game. I mean, they're best of 3, so JJ was my MVP for that reason, which I'll get to. Game 2, however, Ultra Prime would win. 17-4. It was even a bigger blowout. So EDG would get a 2v2 kill and start the game off strong in the bot lane. It was very chaotic down there. Actually, Ultra Prime were just so close to getting the kill and didn't. In response, Ultra Prime would then match in mid and go after the mid laner. At 7 minutes, Elk would have a double kill in the 2v2. So the 2v2 of Ultra Prime showed up in this game, coming that close actually to going 3-0 in the bot lane laning phase against arguably maybe the best bot lane in the world to some people, but with Viper and Miko. Up would then go to top lane and get a kill up there to turn into a Rift Herald, which took a while for them to drop, but they did end up dropping it. EDG would respond by taking the Infernal Drake, and the game ended up kind of slowing down after that. There was a little skirmish in mid lane, but in bot lane, but besides that, by 15 minutes, it was only 5-2. Cryin was 3-0-0. So Cryin was carrying in this early game also, winning his matchup as, they were able to create advantages all around the Rift. So Ultra Prime would then just start stacking Drakes after that. EDG got the first one, but Ultra Prime would eventually go to Soul Point. They took a Hex Tech. Then they would take a Mountain. The only notable thing that happened in the mid-game fight-wise was that Elk was able to snipe somebody from across the Rift on Jinx at 20 minutes, if you want to see that. At 25 minutes, the team started jostling in mid lane. It ended up being 1-1, and both teams reset. However, Ultra Prime would then decide to take the Baron because they weakened EDG enough to be able to take it, which turned into a 5K gold lead. By doing that, as Ultra Prime took the Baron, EDG would then take the Mountain Drake, which prevented Ultra Prime from eventually getting a soul. They would go to Soul Point, like I said, a few minutes later. Nevertheless, at 30 minutes, Ultra Prime were up 10-4, had a 7.5K gold lead due to the Baron, and Elk was 5-1-2 on Jinx. So Jinx played a big role in both series. Jinx and Aphelios are probably the power picks right now in the world. Some people play Caitlyn, some people play Jhin, but most of the time it's those two that are really doing work. So by this point now, it's pretty much a game where Ultra Prime can't screw up and they'll win. So at 32 minutes, they get a 2-0 team fight win to be able to take Baron, which pushed their gold lead to 10K, and that was that. In the final fight at 35 minutes, Elk got a quadra kill. He probably could have gotten a penta, it's arguable. Z's ended up keeping him from it. ZS. Someone said ZS today, so maybe it's ZS. Nevertheless, they won that game 17-4. It was a blowout, so that was a good game out of them. I am happy to see Ultra Prime do well. People last year were talking about OMG. I've said that a few times, and now OMG looks like they're coming to fruition. Maybe Ultra Prime is that team this year that's going to surprise some people and show that long-term they have success on the horizon. Game 3, however, became a LCK game. It reminded me of Fred at Brion and HLE from Sunday, which was a awful experience, a nightmare of a game to watch. Ultra Prime would come out ahead in the early game by making plays in multiple lanes. They were able to pick off players. However, they did not emphasize getting Drakes, which was reminiscent of this game. EDG said, that's fine, we're just going to take Drakes and stack them. Eventually they would go to Soul by doing that. They took the Mountain, and there was one team fight at 15 minutes that went 1-1, which resulted in the Rift Herald going to EDG. Besides that, there was no fighting. At 20 minutes, it was only 3-1 in favor of Ultra Prime, actually, and Elk had 2 kills. That was all that was going on. The gold was pretty much even. 23 minutes, EDG would get a pick and get to sole point. So at this point, the game is pretty much, just null. It's just whatever. And EDG have 3 drakes. So, I mean, they're winning the game by a lot, in my opinion, because all they need to do is even win a 50-50 and they have an Infernal Soul. So, 25 minutes, EDG win in mid lane 2-1. So, now we're sitting at 28 minutes. 28-minute update, I guess. It's 4-4. EDG are up only 3k gold. Because now they're starting to slowly push and prod on Ultra Prime's weaknesses in game. Ultra Prime were, I think, too afraid to lose. They just pushed back on any sort of confrontation, which allowed EDG just gain gold and gain objectives and take camps and things like that. 28 minutes. After that, I mean, that's why I did 28 minutes. Right at like 28 minutes, EDG would then take the soul in a fight that went 2-2. EDG came out on top with the soul. So that, I mean, now they had Infernal Soul, so these fights were now going to probably go in their favor. At 31 minutes, they would take the Baron. 2-0 team fight win, and that pushed their gold lead to 7k. So now they're at 7k gold lead at 30 minutes. 33 minutes, they ended in bot lane 3-1, and they won the game 11-7. JJ was my MVP because he took Drakes. He was there to show up, to take objectives. He made some plays on the Lee Sin. He didn't have to do much, but he was pretty active in this game. Where Scout, I think, had a negative. I think he had a negative KDA, at least kills and deaths. Going into the last fight, he picked Silas, and it didn't look good against the LeBlanc. I mean, really, that mid matchup was null and void for this game. It was mainly the bot lanes that did work. So, nevertheless, I thought Ultra Prime looked good. I think they're better than what their record states. EDG, however, should probably be happy that they took the win in this series, because they arguably should have lost it. If Ultra Prime pay attention, kind of like how LGD lost their game 2, you have to kind of contest some of these Drakes. I know you feel like you're scaling, but you have to contest at a certain point, and actually contest, and ensure that when you do, you're not already, stuck between a rock and a hard place, which happened a couple times. Nevertheless, that's my review for today. Thank you for watching. My LCK video will be out later, where I do the power rankings. Like I said, if you missed my LPL one, I uploaded it yesterday. I do this every day for whatever games happen in the 4 major regions. I intend on doing a couple other things for content, but nevertheless, thank you for watching. Any criticism is good criticism, and I hope you like and subscribe.